Good evening, folks, and welcome back to the ARCA Racing podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, and we have a fun show for you guys today. We have our Irwindale West Series review. Yes, the first. I usually call this the first race of the season for the West Series, even though they have their combo race at Phoenix. This is the first standalone West Series race of the season. Other than Phoenix in the fall, pretty much every race of the season is now standalone, but first standalone for the West Series season, a real look at what the ARCA West Series for 2023 is going to give us, and it provided some great racing. I've always said the ARCA West Series can really match the main series in terms of entertainment, that's for sure. And this past weekend's race, even with only 16 in the field, still provided some great on-track action, kind of gave us everything we wanted. Multiple leaders, battles for the lead, an unexpected winner, and some underdogs getting some great runs. So it gave us everything we would like. We're going to go through my little podcast intro, and of course, we'll get right into it. So you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media, Twitter at Start and Park Car. If you're a fan of the ARCA news and backmarker NASCAR news, I am your guy. It's a lot of fun to do. And so if you want to give me a follow there, I'd appreciate it. If you if you like what I'm doing here, give a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're just about to hit 1,050 subs. Turn on the bell for all notifications so you guys never miss a podcast. That way you guys can always join me live. And follow the racingexperts.com media outlets for all NASCAR media-related content. So let's get right into it, shall we? So the ARCA West Series at Irwindale, a.k.a. the 2023 Napa Auto Parts 150 kind of had, I think it was a Hall of Fame type sponsorship name with the Napa Auto Parts 150 name added to it. Irwindale is one of my all-time favorite West Series tracks. I've always been a big advocate for Irwindale, maybe for like a truck race or the rare time we could get an Xfinity race. Personally, I don't mind Portland International Raceway, but I figured if the Xfinity Series is going to go that far, instead of going to Portland, let's go to Irwindale. Irwindale is a fun track. And, I've expressed many times, I expressed it on last week's episode, how, if the Cup Series needs a place to go to on the West Coast, go to Irwindale, man. Just put in some safer barriers and a little bit of extra grandstands, and then boom, you're ready to go. And you'll get a sellout. There's no reason how you would not get a sellout for the first Cup race at Irwindale. So I'm a big advocate for that track. I think it's, you talk about how, some series go to tracks 2 times a year. Irwindale is a perfect fit for the West Series to go there not once, but twice a year. Last year's spring race I wasn't very fond of it, mainly because we had one guy dominate the whole thing. We only had 15 cars show up to last year's race. This year's race was a little bit better. We had originally 18 cars on the entry list. 16 would show up on the entry list. Kind of the same as we had previously seen. Eric Nascimento, Ethan Nascimento. Nascimento is running 2 full-time cars. Ryan Roulette withdrew again. Not really a good sign for his full-time tenure. I hope everything's okay with that organization. And the 83 of Jalen Mack. Now, that is not surprising, as the 83 has now withdrawn from 3 or 4 consecutive attempts. So it's just kind of, are we going to see the 83 at this point, or are we not? I don't know. I was kind of hoping those 2 would show up because those guys were not starting parks. They were going to run the whole thing. So that unfortunately took us down to 16, but we still had a very, I would say, solid field of cars. Some of the newer entries, we also had the Trevor Huddleston team, High Point Racing, which was kind of the remnants. They purchased a lot of the remnants from the old Bob Roncati team. They were entering in a second car, the 55 for Jake Bowman. We had the 46 again, RJ Smotherman. Looks like Loudon Jackson Motorsports will be fielding 2 full-time entries. The 41, of course, for Tyler Reif, and RJ Smotherman in the 46. It looks like will also be a full-time entry. Chris Loudon himself might also do some couple of races for Blue Valor Whiskey Racing if they bring that team back as well. Landon Lewis is back in the 17. It is still unclear if he's running full-time, but I really hope he is, because Landon Lewis is a perfect championship candidate. Very, very solid driver. MMI Motorsports has kind of put MMI Motorsports back on the map, getting that win last year at Kern County. Joe Nava and PP1 Motorsports, they were supposed to go to Phoenix, but they didn't make it. but they are here. They are still committed to the rest of the schedule. So good to see Joe Nava's team back again. That was the former team that Takuma Koga drove for before moving over to Jerry Pitts. So they were back with Nick Jonides, who drove for them in a couple races last year. And yeah, that was kind of our 16-car field. And of course, we had Bobby Hillis. It wasn't really clear if Bobby was going to go the whole season or just do the 2 Phoenix races, but it looks like that Bobby, after sitting out most of the West Series season last year, only doing the Phoenix races, might actually run quite a few races this season, which I hope he does. You know, Bobby, he's like the Brad Smith and Wayne Peterson of the West Division. We all love him. We all love Bobby Hillis. He's just a fun underdog to root for sure. So yeah, we had 16 cars. Of course, in the West Series, they don't have separate practice and qualifying. For those races, so it's just kind of done at the exact same time. Which I think is a more, especially for the 2 lower tier series, I think that's actually a better fit for them. I really do think it's a better fit overall. There was, unfortunately, I cannot find any qualifying results. But needless to say, because Racing Reference, unfortunately, hasn't updated, so I can't find any qualifying results. But basically, we can just get it from the starting format. Trevor Huddleston was on the pole, which was actually great to see in some ways, because it does show that even moving over back to High Point Racing, that the Sunrise Ford cars clearly didn't lose any speed coming from Sunrise Ford over to High Point. So that was good to see. Second place was the 88 of Bradley Erickson. He showed a lot of speed at Phoenix. Third was Sean Hingorani for Venturini. Fourth was Landon Lewis. Fifth was Tanner Reif. Sixth was the 55 of Jake Bowman. And probably the most surprising was the 41 of Tyler Reif, the dominator at Phoenix. Really had one of the better cars, just had no luck in the beginning. Only qualifying 7th. And it really does beg into question, did Loudon Jackson really save their best bullet for that combo race and maybe are now running more in-house cars the rest of the year? I think that's a fair estimate to say that. I don't know if they're running old DGR cars at every single race, and they might be running some of their own with a mix of old DGR cars as well. That could be a case as well. Other notables in the field, Kyle Keller was 8th. Ethan Nascimento was 9th. His brother Eric was 10th. Then kind of the fillers, Todd Souza, who was also running an XDGR car with a new Mustang nose, was down in 11th. Quite slow speed from him. Kind of shocking. RJ Smotherman was down in 12th. Takuma Koga in 13th. David Smith was 14th. Nick Jonides was 15th. And everyone's favorite, Bobby Hillis, down in 16th. So race started here. And, with only 16 cars, I didn't think the 27 was going to park it. I figured if Bobby was going to show up to these races, he was going to go the whole effort. And then once I saw Camping World on the hood, I'm like, yeah, Bobby's definitely running the whole distance. If he's got Camping World on the hood, they're providing him with enough funding to at least go the distance. And that's what we saw. Right at the race start, the 55 of Huddleston pulled out to a pretty decent-sized lead over the 17 of Landon Lewis, who went from 4th to 2nd on the start. Erickson fell back to 3rd. Hingorani was sliding in 4th. And that they kind of hung there for about the first, I don't know, probably 30 or 40 laps. But as we saw over the long run, the 50 started to fade. It's like in the sunlight, the 50 of Huddleston was very strong. But as the track got cooler and the track got darker, his car appeared to fade away, like very, very fade in terms of the back of the field. And closer coming up to lap 50, we started to see the 17 and the 15 closing on him. The 15 and 17 were kind of in their own battle for 3rd. And then you kind of had the 41, 70, 16, and 13 kind of just battling amongst themselves for about 6th through 7th. Again, no starting parks at this point, but you kind of had the stragglers. Hillis, Bobby Hillis, David Smith, Koga, they were all getting lapped. Smotherman was getting lapped. Jonides was getting lapped. They had lapped up to about 8th place, and that's kind of where it straggled because those were, I would say, were the fastest 8 cars, the cars that could really hang with the pack. And then eventually it happened after 72 laps. The Landon Lewis had finally, after hounding him, had gotten to the lead, but not very long. After 72 laps, the 17 of Landon Lewis took the lead, but would only hold it for 5 laps before here came the hard-charging Venturini. It was clear that they did set up Sean Hingorani's car more for a night race or more for night action than the day action because his practice, like I said, his practice speeds and his practice qualifying speeds did not show a race-winning pace. But, like I said, when you're practicing and qualifying during the day and you know this race is going to finish under night, and I think that's where the experience of Venturini really comes in to an extent. I think that's where their experience really comes in, is that they're able to predict, okay, we can't, even if the car isn't perfect right now for practice and qualifying, we got to remember this race is going to start in the evening and end under darkness. So the car is not going to be acting different. So I think in that retrospective right there, that's where a team like Venturini really has the upper advantage over these other organizations, even Bill McNally's team, because they've been in the sport almost just as long as Venturini. But at the end of the day, Big Bill and Billy, they got those smarts, and the crew chiefs, they got those smarts that maybe some of these other teams just don't have. So I think that's kind of what the 15 really set their stuff up for, was more of a night race type of action, because, man, the 15 really, really came on about halfway through the race by the time we were in total darkness. And 5 laps later, after the 17 of Landon Lewis took the lead, here came the 15 of Sean Hingorani. He took the lead on lap 78. By this point, no cautions. We went the first 89 laps green. By that point, we had lapped up to about 6th, 7th, 8th place, somewhere around there. Like I said, the back markers were kind of getting eaten up at this point. Souza had gone a couple laps down at that point. Smith had gone multiple laps down. Hillis had gone a couple laps down. Koga had gone a couple laps down. I mean, like I said, if you were off the pace, man, it was a rough go out there. It really was. No halfway break. I did not know that, actually. So when we got to lap 75, I figured we were going to get a caution, but no caution. So lap 89 came out. It was pretty much a got what you got race. And sometimes I like that. I like that in some retrospective. It's if you're struggling throughout the race, you better hope there's a caution, because there's no guaranteed halfway break if you use up your tires too early. And that may be also what could have happened to the 50 as well. You use up your stuff too early, you're going to screw yourself for the second half. But we had a debris caution. The free pass was a 70 of Kyle Keller. We racked him up for the restart, and then utter chaos. The big moment of the race at the back of the field. Not really sure what happened, but something happened with the 4, the 46, and the 77, and a massive crash ensued. Probably one of the bigger West Series crashes that I can remember seeing at a short track. And that's kind of common at Irwindale. Irwindale has a lot of crashes. Last year, there was a big crash at Irwindale. This year, a big crash for sure. And it claimed the 46, the 77, and the 4. Note, the 04 of Ethan Nascimento did have a mechanical issue, did spend 31 laps behind the wall, did come back out to pass the cars, but would finish 13th. But he did come back out. So for a brief time, we still had all 16 cars out there. I forgot to mention that. But the 77, Nick Jonides, was destroyed. The 46 was destroyed. The 4 was destroyed. I mean, these cars were mangled. Probably still reusable. I'm sure it's going to need probably some new body parts for sure. But I think the cars are still reusable. Just you don't expect to see hard crashes like that in the West Series. Very, very rarely do you see hard crashes. But everybody was okay. But, for these teams like Eric Nascimento, Loudon Jackson, and Joe Nava PP1, these teams don't necessarily have the funding to repair these cars as quickly and easy as maybe a, Joe Gibbs, Venturini, Rhett Jones, kind of those types of organizations. Even, Jerry Pitt's team is probably a little bit better off than those organizations. So hopefully they can get these cars repaired quick enough. No rush at the same time. That's kind of the nice part about the ARCA West Series schedule, because right now, the next ARCA West race isn't until April 22nd in Kern County. So these teams have 3 weeks to get new body parts, to get these cars ready for Kern County. And I hope we still see the 77. I hope we still see the second Nascimento entry. And I hope the 46 will be continuing as well. So they got time. It's not like, they have to thrash 1 week's time as the next West race. No, they got 3 weeks. It's still, you got to rush, but it's not like you're thrashing like crap. You just, at the same time, get stuff done, but take your time at the same time, if that makes sense. So they did the smart thing, red flagged the race. No free pass under this caution, because I believe the free pass would have been either the 4 or the 46, but because they were involved in the crash, you guys know that rule, no free pass then. No free pass at all. So ran 4 more laps under caution to get the field ready to go. Got the field going again. 15 Hingorani again pulls out a huge gap. He really, really had a strong car at this point. 4 laps later, though, we had another incident, the 55 of Jake Bowman and the 13 of Todd Souza. This was the other big crash of the race. The 55 goes hard into the wall in turn 2. Again, one of the worser crashes I've really seen in the West Series. This car, and again, you could say that's mainly because Irwindale does not have safer barriers. You are hitting concrete walls, so the car is going to get more damage, especially with the composite bodies. What they don't give as much when it comes to concrete walls. And yeah, this 55 car was tore up. If this was an ex-Sunrise car, it's definitely an X car in general now. So I don't know if this car is going to be returning. And if it does, it's going to be a while. It's going to be a while before this one returns. Bowman is expected to return to the team. I don't know which race. The 13 of Souza just kind of got in there way too hard. Got in there way too hard. Turned the 55. Kind of screwed himself at the same time. Both front suspensions on the 13 were killed, and that also put an end to Souza's night. So a very, very rough race overall for Todd Souza. Didn't show very much speed in general, and ends up, unfortunately, the car is not demolished by any means, but heavy suspension damage and a little bit of bodywork damage as well. So, we were just losing cars left and right at this point. Also at this time, the 04 was still on track. He would pass the 3 cars involved in the crash, but would fall out. The mechanical issues would return, and he wouldn't be able to pass the 55 in time. He would finish 13th. So Souza, he had to go into the garage, or I guess the infield. They repaired his car. He got back out on track 12 laps down. So we were down to 11 cars. But all these crashes meant that underdogs Takuma Koga, Bobby Hillis, and David Smith, who were all running outside the top 10, were now inside the top 10, which, again, you love to see it. You love to see underdogs getting the top 10 finishes. And it pretty much put them in a lock for a top 10 finish, because the 13 of Souza was too many laps behind for them to get caught. Takuma Koga was the free pass under that caution. Took the time to clean that up, of course. Got back going green again. Only 4 laps later, though. And then Bradley Erickson, even though he qualified second, did not show, I feel like, the same speed that we saw out of him at Phoenix. He unfortunately hit the wall pretty good. Kind of killed the right side of this car. Kind of just got too hot into the corner and just slammed into the right side of the wall. We've seen it 100 times in the Cup Series and Xfinity Series. The car was pretty badly damaged, but considering there was only 18 laps left in the race, the crew just kind of, beat the spoiler down, beat the fender out, put a set of tires on there just to see if the 88 could limp to the flag, because at the end of the day, there were only 6 cars on the lead lap. So even if the 88 could just limp it around, the final 20 laps, more than likely they still have a shot at a 6th place finish, which wouldn't drop them too far in the points at all. So that was our last crash. Takuma would get the free pass again. We would get the free pass again. Got the In that melee, though, the 17 of Landon Lewis did retake the lead from lap 122 to 133, but coming to the last restart, the 15 of Hingorani would get the jump, and he would get the lead, and he set sail. And, I mean, he really, really set sail. I mean, you talk about taking good care of your tires and handling. In this last run, the 88 did have to come to pit road. I don't know if it was for a tire issue or just a car was handling so bad they had to beat it out again. But the 88 did come down pit road, lost a couple laps. He would drop to eighth. The 7 would get past him. So still not a horrible finish for Ericsson, but definitely not what that team needed or was looking for. In the last run, Tyler Reif, who had been running almost 5th or 6th the whole race, made a late race charge up to 3rd, so he wouldn't lose much ground in the points. Huddleston fell down to 4th, and Tanner Reif kind of, again, McAnally's team, McAnally's ARCA team has not been the same since they switched to Chevrolet. That's for sure. They're still searching for that 100th win, but really surprising to see Bill McAnally's team, after they just dominated the West Series division for all these years in the Camping World, in the Winston West era, the Camping World Series era, the K&N Pro Series era, and even the ARCA West Series era for a long time. And then they make the switch to Chevrolet, and they just have not been the same since. I don't know what's happened to them. If it's just they can't get the hang of the nose, the downforce, the car, or is it Tanner Reif? I mean, Tanner Reif ran very well for Sunrise last year, so it's just really surprising to see the 16 team struggling as much as they are. For sure, it's really surprising to see them struggling this bad. Overall, though, the 15 of Hingorani, like I said, he had pulled out to a huge lead at this point. He wasn't getting caught, and Sean Hingorani gets his very first ARCA Menards Series West win. And surprisingly, this is Sean's. I mean, he hasn't been in the series very long. This was Sean's only career 7th start. In his 7th start, he gets his first ARCA West Series win. To my knowledge, I think it's the first one for Venturini. I don't recall them ever winning a West race. I know they've competed in West Series races in the past. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think this might have also been Venturini's, if not their first or second career West Series victory. So kind of a big moment for them. In Elio Castroneves type fashion, Sean Hingorani gets out of his car. The emotion, the adulation, you got to love it. Raw emotion. Goes up to the fence, climbs the fence, does the push-ups or pull-ups, on the fence. You got to love the emotion. The crew's up there. They're happy about this. Venturini, for all the times that Venturini has won in ARCA, when they win, they celebrate. And you got to love that. You got to love and respect that. So Sean Hingorani finished first. Landon Lewis, a bridesmaid again, finishes 2nd. Tyler Reif 3rd. Trevor Huddleston 4th. Tanner Reif 5th. Kyle Keller 6th, Takuma Koga 7th, Bradley Erickson came home 8th, Bobby Hillis gets a 9th place finish, David Smith gets a 10th place finish, Todd Souza, the final car running, was 11th, Jake Bowman was 12th, Ethan Nascimento was 13th, Eric Nascimento was 14th, RJ Smotherman was 15th, and Nick Jonades was 16th. Overall, I thought the race was very good. I think same thing as last year. The small car count did, to an extent, I believe, hurt the field. If at minimum, I'd like to get at least 20 cars for these Irwindale races. Having only 16 and then you lose a couple, it kind of can take the fun out of it. But overall, we had plenty comers and goers. We had a good 4 or 5 cars that really had a shot at this thing, and they were all very similar. And at the end of the day, the legendary ARCA team of Venturini, I believe it just came down to experience on how to really set up a car for a night race. And I think it was just their experience that really got them this victory. The standings coming out of this race, obviously, now that we've updated them past Phoenix, we have a better look at what the points will look like for this season. Tyler Reif still holds the points lead, 2 points over Landon Lewis in 2nd. Trevor Huddleston is 3rd, 10 points behind. Bradley Erickson is 4th, 11 points behind. Kyle Keller is 5th, 11 points behind. Sean Hingorani, man, he had that bad run at Phoenix, which really, really hurt his chances. He finished, I think, 21st in that race, and he was 19 points out of the lead. And even with this win, dominating win, he only put himself up to 6th. He is still 13 points out, so still work to do for Sean Hingorani if Venturini wants to win this West Series title. Tanner Reif is down in 7th, minus 17. Todd Souza is down in 8th, minus 22. Takuma Koga is down in 9th, minus 26th. Eric Nascimento is down in 10th, minus 28. Bobby Hillis is down in 12th, minus 34. And the final full-time West Series driver, RJ Smotherman, is down in 14th, minus 44. So those are all the guys who have run both races so far. The championship, I think it's definitely going to come down to, I would say, a good 5 guys have a legit chance at the ARCA West Series championship this season, just seeing on how they ran on these types of tracks. But Sean Hingorani, Landon Lewis, if he is full-time, Bradley Erickson, Trevor Huddleston, and Tyler Reif will be the 5 guys who will be going after this championship. So we definitely got ourselves a great championship battle on our hands for the West Series this season. But Tyler Reif, man, getting that advantage of that big win at Phoenix really put him ahead in the championship hunt. But we go to a lot of different West Series tracks this season. Overall, I thought this race was very, very good for West Series standards. When it does air on TV, I would recommend, if you guys have the chance, to indeed watch it. But like I was going back saying, the championship battle, we got Bakersfield. Kern County is our next race. Of course, we got Portland, Sonoma. So after that, 2 straight road courses. So, and that could be where Landon Lewis comes in because, he was a contender in the road races last year. The Sonoma road race is usually a race that brings almost 30 cars because some of the Cup guys will sometimes enter those races. I don't know about this year. Usually we see some Cup drivers run the ARCA West race, but since the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, you talk about a packed weekend of stuff. All 4 series going to be at Sonoma. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Cup guys running this race. If I was honestly a Cup guy, I would rather run this race, honestly, than the Xfinity Series race or the Truck Series race because it just so much crap happens in those races. I feel like the ARCA West race would be more fun, personally. But, those two will be interesting races for sure. Irwindale again, Shasta and Madera, 2 tracks that we have not been to in a long, long time, and some new tracks. Roseville again, the Bull Ring, and then, of course, Phoenix in the fall. So we got all these different tracks. And for all these rookies, man, it's really going to be a fun championship battle for sure. I would really right now, I think it's hard to say who's going to win the championship, but if Venturini is pulling out good runs like this, and even before, his incident at Phoenix, Sean was running top 5. So, I think we have to account that he was running well at Phoenix, more than likely would have gotten a top 10, top 5 finish had he not had his suspension issues, and pulls off a dominating win here. So, Tyler Reif might be sitting pretty up there right now, but Sean Hingorani, 13 points behind, and he's hard charging, man. He is hard charging. Wouldn't count out Landon Lewis, Bradley Erickson, and Trevor Huddleston. Those are the teams that'll be interesting to see because, those are not really big-time organizations. Because Venturini obviously is, they're the big guns. Tyler Reif, Loudon Jackson, they're running XDGR equipment, so they got a lot of technical support there. It's really, I would say, those 2 organizations that I just mentioned a little earlier, High Point Racing and Naki Kluwer, that might have the least, I don't know how to say, but least likely options at the Drivers' Championship right now. But overall, I still think we're in for a great championship battle for the West Series division. Car counts wise, I hope we can see improvement. I know the real world issues with, inflation and all that crap is definitely playing a factor. I know payouts are not very good. That's something I wish I could obviously change, but, unfortunately we just can't. But to an extent, I hope car counts are not as bad as we saw last year. We only saw 13 for one of the Portland races, so I hope Portland can help bring a decent field. I do believe that race is in line, though, with the Xfinity Series race. So hopefully we'll see some Xfinity drivers running that race to hopefully get some extra laps and bring some, just like I said, bring some extra cars. But overall, I think the 14 drivers we saw here might be the 14 drivers we see running the whole season. Now, again, 14 is not the biggest field, but for tracks like Kern County, for tracks like Roseville, 14 cars is enough. But for tracks like Sonoma, tracks like Portland, and the Las Vegas Bull Ring, you want to see big fields. You want to see decent-sized fields. You want to see fields that can give you really, really, really fun racing. And, it's just a shame, we had to lose, BMI Racing, Bridget Burgess. We had to lose the 33 of PJ Pedroncelli because, right there, two full race, full-time cars that we lost last year. The ARCA West Series definitely took a little bit of a hit in competitive cars. We lost, like I said, we lost the championship team last year, with them going out of business and then selling off their equipment. So, if you take those teams and apply them to this year, I feel like the West Series would be in a lot better situation, a lot better situation overall if we didn't lose those teams from last year. But, what are you going to do? Unfortunately, at the end of the day, what are you going to do? So yeah, it's going to be a fun year for sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens with these West guys. Obviously, the West Series can always put on good racing. But yeah, for the West Series, of course, their season is pretty spread out. Like I said, their next race is Bakersfield in 3 weeks. But then after that, it's a month-and-a-half break for the West Series teams. They will not race again and then until June 2nd in Portland. And then it's a 1-week turnaround to Sonoma, and then about another month break for Irwindale, about another month break for Shasta. And then if kind of the rest of the season is a little bit closer. But, for a lot of these teams, like I said, who were involved in that crash, they might not be able to make it to Kern County, but then they got plenty of time to get their cars ready. If they're not showing up to the road courses, the next oval race would be Shasta, and that's at the end of July. So that's more than enough time to get your car ready by then. So, but yeah. The ARCA series in general, there is not going to be any podcast next week. It's kind of a spoiler alert. ARCA West Series is kind of taking a break from this race. Our next ARCA race in general will be April 22nd at Talladega. That's the big series. We actually have 2 series running that weekend. We have the big series, Talladega, and then we have Kern County, of course, with the West Series. So that'll be 2 ARCA races in one day. So that means that podcast will be big to watch as we'll be previewing 2 races and reviewing 2 races. So that'll be a fun podcast to look forward to in a couple weeks. But for now, it has been fun talking with you guys as usual. I've been thinking about also maybe moving the ARCA Racing podcast to a different date. Wednesdays at 6 is showing to maybe not be the best time to do the show. I'm just usually very busy after 7 o'clock. So I can't usually do the show at 7 o'clock. I can't do the show at 8 o'clock. I've been thinking about possibly moving the show to Monday because we do backmarker battles on Tuesday and Thursday. So let me know what you guys think. But I think what we might do is move these ARCA Racing podcast to Monday. I think that might be a better date. The race is a little bit more fresh in everyone's mind. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Just let me know what you guys think. But for an experiment, just to see how you guys feel and how I feel about doing it, the preview show or the preview show for the ARCA Racing podcast races at Talladega and Kern County will be taking place on a Monday. It will be taking place on a Monday, and the review show will be taking place on that Monday. We'll be doing those 2 shows, and I'm going to see how that goes. But I might want to change it up a little bit. I know, like I said, we usually do it on Wednesdays, but 6 o'clock is not proven to usually be the best time for me. or best time to get viewers in, because we only got a couple people watching live right now. And I thank for the people who have tuned in. I thank you very much for tuning in. But I just feel like doing it at 6 p.m. is just maybe a little too early. You know, for some people, like people on the West Coast right now, it's only 4:30 there. They're not even home yet. And it's 7:30 on the East Coast. So some of these people are, you know, still eating dinner and all that stuff. So I'm going to change it up. Next ARCA Racing podcast will be taking place at a Monday, and that will be at 7 p.m. I feel like that'll be a lot better for my West Series, West Coast fans, and my East Coast fans, and my Central Coast fans as well. So we'll see where that goes, but I thank you guys for tuning in to tonight's show. I know it wasn't a very long show, but, you know, the ARCA West Series, outside of the couple of crashes and the lead changes, you know, we kind of got through that pretty quickly, got through our championship picks, and no preview show. So it's just kind of, we got to maybe end this one a little early tonight. But I thank you guys for joining me live, and we will see you guys tomorrow live at 7 p.m. Central Time for our Backmarker Battles Bristol Dirt preview show. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. You guys know the drill. Like I say at the beginning of the show, like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications. And, yeah, we will catch you guys in a couple weeks with the next ARCA Racing Podcast. But if you are a regular of my channel, then I will see you all tomorrow at 7 p.m. So, till then, have a great great rest of your Wednesday night, and we'll catch you all later. Colby Evans, Starting Park Car, signing off. So long, guys.